A couple of bikers swaggered into a coastal diner, looking for trouble. They found a highly decorated Navy commander instead. What happened next would expose a $100 million smuggling operation, topple a criminal empire, and teach the Steel Serpent's motorcycle gang a brutal lesson. Sometimes, the most dangerous person in the room is the quiet woman drinking coffee in the corner. They thought they were intimidating a lone woman. Instead, they picked a fight with one of the most decorated naval officers in American history. This is the story of how two bikers messed with the wrong female Navy commander, Evelyn Hayes, and how their biggest mistake became their final one. The morning fog rolled thick off the ocean, blanketing the streets of Port Haven in a ghostly shroud. Commander Evelyn Hayes sat alone at her usual window booth in Martha's Harbor Diner, watching the steam rise from her coffee cup in lazy spirals. She'd chosen this small coastal town precisely because nothing ever happened here. After 20 years of classified operations and missions that would never make the history books, all she wanted was quiet. Martha Johnson, the silver-haired owner who'd run the diner for over 3 decades, approached with a fresh pot of coffee. "You're too young to look so tired, dear," she said, topping off Evelyn's cup. Her warm smile reminded Evelyn of her mother, gone now 15 years. Martha had no idea about the nightmares that still woke Evelyn in cold sweats, or why she always chose the booth with the clearest view of both exits. The peaceful morning shattered as 2 motorcycles roared into the parking lot, their engines deliberately loud enough to rattle the diner's windows. The other customers tensed, conversations dying mid-sentence. Martha's smile faltered as she gripped the coffee pot tighter. Evelyn watched the Steel Serpent's distinctive snake emblem on their leather jackets as they dismounted, noting how the other patrons suddenly found their breakfast extremely interesting. Rico the Rattler Diaz led the way, his scarred face twisting into what he probably thought was a charming smile as he surveyed the room. His lieutenant, Vic the Crusher Stone, followed close behind, both men moving with the exaggerated confidence of bullies who'd never faced real resistance. Rico's gaze lingered on Evelyn for a moment too long before turning to Martha. "Martha, sweetheart," Rico called out, his voice carrying an edge that made several patrons look away. "We missed you at the town meeting last night." Mayor Thompson was disappointed. Martha's hands trembled slightly as she set down the coffee pot. "Had inventory to do. Rico, you know how it is." Sure, Rico replied, moving closer. "But see, when a mayor calls a meeting, it's not really optional. He's trying to help this town grow, and he needs everyone's support." His hand came down hard on the counter, making Martha flinch. Evelyn watched the exchange silently, her coffee forgotten. She cataloged details with practiced precision. Vic carried a knife in his boot, poorly concealed. Rico's jacket bulged slightly on the left side, an amateur mistake for a shoulder holster. Their confident postures suggested they were used to intimidation working, but their sloppy weapon discipline told her they'd never faced serious resistance. "Maybe," Martha said, her voice stronger now, "the mayor should focus on running the town instead of letting criminals dictate policy." The diner went dead silent. Rico's fake smile vanished. "What did you just say to me, old woman?" he growled, reaching across the counter. Evelyn moved before conscious thought could fully take over. 20 years of naval command experience kicked in as she grabbed Rico's wrist, applying precise pressure to nerve clusters that made his fingers spasm open. "She said," Evelyn spoke softly, but her voice carried throughout the silent diner, "that the mayor should do his job." Rico tried to pull away, but Evelyn's grip was iron. Vic moved to flank her, but she remained focused on Rico. "Let go of me," Rico snarled, "or my boy here will make you regret it." Evelyn smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Will he?" "Because from where I'm standing, you've got 3 choices. 1. You and your friend leave now, and we forget this happened. 2. You try something stupid, and I send both of you to the emergency room. Or 3. She increased pressure slightly, making Rico wince. We find out just how many bones I can break before you hit the floor. You have no idea who you're messing with. Rico spat. Actually, I do, Evelyn replied. Rico the Rattler Diaz. Dishonorable discharge from the Navy in 18. You and the Steel Serpents have been running protection rackets up and down the coast. But lately, you've moved up to something bigger. Did I miss anything? The color drained from Rico's face. Vic's hand moved toward his concealed weapon. But Evelyn's voice stopped him cold. I wouldn't. Your draw is slow, and you telegraph your intentions like an amateur. By the time you clear leather, this will be over. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then, Rico raised his free hand in surrender. All right, we're leaving. But this isn't over. Evelyn released him, stepping back to give them space to exit. It can be. That's up to you. The two bikers backed away, their attempts to look menacing undermined by the way Rico rubbed his wrist. As they mounted their bikes, Rico shot one last glare through the window. Who are you? Martha whispered as the motorcycles roared away. Evelyn sat back down, taking a sip of her now-cold coffee. Just someone who's seen enough bullies for one lifetime. But as she watched the Steel Serpents disappear into the fog, she knew Rico was right about one thing. This wasn't over. She just painted a target on her back. And if her instincts were correct, the protection racket was just the tip of the iceberg. The Steel Serpents were part of something much bigger, something that reached far beyond this small coastal town. Martha placed a fresh cup of coffee in front of her, along with a slice of apple pie. Whatever happens next, the older woman said firmly, you're not alone. Evelyn nodded, already running through scenarios in her mind. She'd chosen this town looking for peace, but sometimes peace had to be fought for. And if it was a fight the Steel Serpents wanted, they were about to learn why Navy commanders were the last people you wanted as enemies. No, Evelyn agreed quietly, pulling out her phone to make a call she'd hoped never to make again. I'm not alone, and neither are you. Not anymore. Late that evening, Evelyn sat in her small apartment above Martha's diner, cleaning her Glock 19 with practiced precision. The encounter with the Steel Serpents played over in her mind as she considered her next move. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. It's open. Sheriff, she called out, not looking up from her work. Sheriff Ben Carter stepped inside, his weathered face betraying concern. Word travels fast in a small town. Heard you had a run-in with Rico and his boys. News to me, Evelyn replied, reassembling her weapon. I just had a friendly chat with some customers who were being impolite. Carter sighed, settling into a chair across from her. Look, Commander Hayes. Evelyn, she corrected. I know about your background. When you moved here 6 months ago, I ran a check. 20 years in the Navy. Multiple commendations. Things so classified, even my law enforcement clearance couldn't access them. Evelyn finally looked up, meeting his gaze. Then you know I can handle myself. That's what worries me. The Steel Serpents aren't just some local gang anymore. They've got connections. Deep ones. Last month, my deputy found a shipment at the port that would have raised serious flags. Before we could investigate, orders came down from the state level to back off. Sounds like someone's being paid to look the other way. Carter leaned forward, lowering his voice. Mayor Thompson holds meetings at the Steel Serpent Clubhouse. Half the city council drives new cars they shouldn't be able to afford. The Port Authority suddenly has funding for extensive renovations. I got a teenage daughter. Evelyn, I can't risk. So you turn a blind eye? Evelyn finished for him. I do what I can without getting my people killed. Carter stood, adjusting his belt. I'm not here to tell you what to do. Just be careful. Rico isn't the real power in the Steel Serpents. His boss, Dominic the Serpent Volkov is coming to town next week. The man's got connections to smuggling operations across 3 continents. Evelyn's expression remained neutral, but her mind was racing. Volkov was a name she'd heard before. During her last mission with naval intelligence and operation that had gone sideways, costing the lives of 2 of her teammates. Thanks for the warning, Sheriff. As Carter reached the door, he paused. For what it's worth, Martha Johnson's a good woman. Been serving coffee and pie in this town since I was a kid. What you did today? Well, it's about time someone stood up for her. After Carter left, Evelyn pulled out her phone, dialing a number she hadn't used in months. Donovan speaking. Mike, it's Hayes. Remember that smuggling operation we tracked in Singapore? The one that got Miller and Rodriguez killed? A pause. The one that got away? Yeah. I think I found a supply chain. Port Haven. Of all places. Christ. Evelyn, you're supposed to be retired. I need everything you can get me on Dominic Volkov and the Steel Serpents MC. Official channels only. I don't want to burn any of your backdoor sources. Mike sighed. Give me 48 hours. And Evelyn, be careful. Volkov isn't someone you want to tangle with alone. Who said I'm alone? The next morning, Evelyn was helping Martha open the diner when a group of motorcycles roared past. Not Steel Serpents this time. Their leather cuts displayed a different insignia, the Iron Wolves. Their leader, a massive man known as Duke Granite Walker, caught Evelyn's eye as they passed. There was recognition there, and something else, a message. More trouble? Martha asked, her voice tired. Maybe not, Evelyn replied. The Iron Wolves were different. Former military. Mostly. They protected their territory, but didn't prey on civilians. And if Evelyn's instincts were right, they might be potential allies. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mike. Data coming through. Volkov, definitely your guy. Got coordinates from multiple port facilities. Also, local intel suggests Iron Wolves MC might be enemy of your enemy. Evelyn smiled. Things were falling into place. The morning crowd started filtering in, regulars who'd witnessed yesterday's confrontation. They nodded to Evelyn with newfound respect. Word had spread. Someone had finally stood up to the Steel Serpents. Around noon, Deputy Lorith Sanchez entered, making a beeline for Evelyn's usual booth. Got something you need to see, she said quietly, sliding a manila envelope across the table. Evelyn reviewed the photos inside. Surveillance footage from the port. Steel Serpent members overseeing cargo containers being moved at night. Professional security teams that didn't match the gang's usual muscle. Documentation with very official-looking stamps. When? Last night. And here's the thing. They're getting sloppy. Scared. Rico's got his people watching this place. Watching you. But they're not being subtle about it. Evelyn had noticed. 2 Steel Serpent prospects had been parked across the street all morning, trying too hard to look casual. Your boss know you're showing me this? Deputy Sanchez smiled grimly. Ben's a good man, but he's scared. Me? I'm tired of watching these bastards destroy our town. Martha was there for me when my mom died. Made sure I had hot meals and a place to do homework. I got her back. Same as you. Evelyn studied the young deputy. There was steel in her spine, fire in her eyes. Another potential ally. Be careful, Evelyn warned. If they realize you're helping me. I can handle myself. And I'm not the only one who's had enough. As if on cue, the rumble of motorcycles approached again. The Iron Wolves were back. This time, pulling into the diner's lot. Duke dismounted first. His massive frame filling the doorway as he entered. His eyes scanned the room before settling on Evelyn. Mind if we join you? He asked, his voice a gravelly rumble. Deputy Sanchez tensed, but Evelyn nodded as Duke and 3 of his officers slid into the booth. Martha appeared with coffee, seemingly unfazed by the new arrivals. Heard you had words with Rico, Duke said after Martha left. Man's got a reputation for holding grudges. Is that why you're here? To warn me? Duke chuckled. No, Mung. We're here because the Steel Serpents are moving contraband through our territory without permission. Military-grade hardware. The kind that gets people killed. He glanced at Sanchez, who stood her ground. We thought you might be interested in a conversation about mutual interests. Evelyn leaned back, studying the bikers. Their posture, the way they carried themselves, definitely military backgrounds. And unlike the Steel Serpents, they looked her in the eye with respect, not challenge. I'm listening. Duke glanced at Deputy Sanchez again. Deputy Sanchez stays, Evelyn said firmly. She's part of this. Fair enough. Duke leaned forward. Volkov is coming to oversee a major shipment. Something big enough that Rico's got his people running scared. We got intel, manpower, and motivation. What we need is someone who knows how to run an op like this. Someone with Navy training. You hear a lot in a small community. Military folks. Word gets around. Duke's voice softened slightly. I knew Miller. He was a good man. The mention of her fallen teammate hung in the air. After a moment, Evelyn spoke. If we do this, we do it my way. Clean. Precise. By the book. No cowboy stuff. Wouldn't have it any other way. Commander. As the Iron Wolves left, Sanchez let out a breath she'd been holding. You sure about this? Evelyn watched the bikers mount up through the window. The two Steel Serpent prospects across the street were frantically making phone calls. No, she admitted, but sometimes you have to work with the devil, to take down the one you don't. The pieces were moving now. Volkov was coming, bringing with him whatever operation had Rico so nervous. The Iron Wolves were on board, and Sanchez represented a potential link to legitimate law enforcement. Now, all Evelyn needed was a plan that wouldn't get everyone killed. Night had fallen over the small coastal town when Evelyn's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from Mike. She opened the file to find detailed satellite imagery of 3 locations around the port. Warehouses registered to shell companies, but clearly serving as Steel Serpent stored facilities. A knock at her door interrupted her analysis. Martha stood there, looking nervous but determined. You've got visitors, Martha whispered. In the back alley. They say they're friends of yours. Evelyn grabbed her Glock, following Martha down the back stairs. In a shadowy alley, she found Duke and his sergeant-at-arms, along with an unexpected figure, Sheriff Carter. We've got a problem, Carter said without preamble. Volkov isn't just coming for a routine inspection. He's moving his entire operation here. Permanently. Why? Evelyn asked, though she was already piecing it together. Duke spoke. Port Haven's perfect, remote, controlled local government. Easy access to shipping lanes. But that's not the real reason. He handed Evelyn a folder. Our contacts spotted these guys arriving at the private airstrip outside town. The surveillance photos showed familiar faces, members of the same smuggling network Evelyn had encountered in Singapore. The operation that had gone wrong. They're consolidating, Evelyn muttered, using the Steel Serpents as cover for a major distribution hub. It gets worse, Carter added. Mayor Thompson called an emergency council meeting tonight. They're voting to slash the police budget by 60%. I'll have to lay off half my deputies, including Sanchez. Clearing the board, Evelyn concluded, making sure there's no official resistance. Duke nodded grimly. Volkov arrives in 3 days. Rico's boys are already setting up additional security. Whatever they're planning, it's big. Evelyn studied the photos again. They'll be expecting trouble from law enforcement. Maybe rival gangs. But they won't be looking for a naval intelligence operation. Not exactly, Carter corrected. Not exactly. Duke smiled. Half my crew are former special forces, Rangers, Marine Recon, even a couple of Delta boys. We've kept it quiet, maintained our cover as just another MC. but we've got the training. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. A motorcycle club full of spec ops veterans? Someone's got to watch out for the little guy. Duke replied, we've been tracking Volkov for months, gathering intel, but we needed someone with your specific experience to put it all together. The back door opened, and Sanchez stepped out, still in her deputy uniform. We got movement. 3 Steel Serpent trucks just left their compound, headed for the warehouse district. They're moving things around, Evelyn said, consolidating their valuable assets where they can protect them better. She turned to Carter. Sheriff, I know you're trying to protect your people, but we're going to need some official cover for this. Carter sighed heavily. What did you have in mind? I need Sanchez and any deputies you trust completely to do some selective enforcement, traffic stops, license checks, anything to slow down their movements and gather intel. They'll complain to Thompson. Carter warned. Let them. It'll make them sloppy, paranoid. She turned to Duke. I need your people to start pressure testing their security. Nothing obvious, just enough to keep them looking in the wrong direction. Duke grinned. Already started. My boys ran a few bikes past their checkpoints earlier. Got them all spun up about potential rivals moving in. Good. They'll be expecting gang warfare. They won't be looking for a surgical strike. Evelyn pulled out her phone, showing them Mike's satellite imagery. We got 3 days to map their security, identify vulnerabilities, and set up for the main event. And what exactly is the main event? Sanchez asked. We're going to let Volkov set up his operation exactly as planned. Let him bring in his international contacts, his whole network. And then, Evelyn smiled coldly. We're going to take it all down at once. But we'll need one more piece of the puzzle. Carter said. What's that? Evidence. Carter replied. Enough to bypass Thompson and go straight to the feds. The kind of evidence that makes even corrupt politicians run for cover. Martha, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. I might be able to help with that. The diner's been here for 40 years. Martha continued. Everybody comes through here, eventually. Even people who think they're too important to be seen in a place like this. And everybody talks. Evelyn looked at the older woman with newfound respect. You've been keeping track? Names, dates, conversations? I may be just a diner owner, but I'm not stupid. I knew someday someone would need to know what really goes on in this town. Martha pulled a worn leather notebook from her apron pocket. 9 years of notes. Everything from Thompson's first meeting with the Steel Serpents to which council members started living beyond their means. Duke let out a low whistle. Mom, you might just be the most dangerous person here. Meet back here tomorrow night, Evelyn instructed. Duke, bring your best people. Sheriff, we'll need everything Martha's collected, plus whatever your deputies can legally gather. We got one shot at this. As the group dispersed, Martha touched Evelyn's arm. You're not just doing this for the town, are you? This is personal. Evelyn thought of her fallen teammates, of the mission that had gone wrong. Sometimes, personal motivation just means you'll work harder to get it right. Back in her apartment, Evelyn spread out the intel, starting to form a plan. Volkov had no idea he was walking into a trap 3 years in the making. He thought he was expanding his empire, but he was really stepping into a sniper's crosshair. Her phone buzzed with a text from Mike. Satellite shows more movement. Whatever they're planning, it's massive. Watch your 6. Evelyn sent back a simple reply. Don't worry. This time, we're ready for them. The next morning brought tense activity across town. Sanchez and the remaining trusted deputies conducted strategic traffic stops on Steel Serpent vehicles, while Iron Wolves members made their presence known through carefully orchestrated drive-bys of gang territory. Evelyn sat at her usual spot in Martha's diner, watching Rico and 2 of his lieutenants arguing intensely across the street. Their frustration was visible even from a distance. Your coffee is getting cold, Martha said, sliding into the booth across from her. She placed her worn notebook on the table. Here's everything I've got on Thompson and his cronies. 10 years of notes. Conversations. Meetings that weren't supposed to happen. Evelyn flipped through the pages, her expression hardening. Martha, this is more than just weapon smuggling. They've been laundering money through half the businesses in town. Why do you think I started keeping track? My herald, God rest his soul, always said knowledge was power. When he passed, and they started pressuring me to sell the diner, I knew I needed insurance. A commotion outside drew their attention. Rico was shoving one of his own men against a wall, clearly enraged. The pressure was getting to them. Evelyn's phone buzzed. A message from Duke. Package secured. Meet at the old cannery. I need to go, Evelyn told Martha. Stay alert. Things are going to get tense before they get better. The abandoned cannery sat on the outskirts of town, its rusted equipment serving as silent sentinels. Evelyn found Duke and his core team waiting inside, along with an unexpected guest, a bound and gagged steel serpent prospect. Found him snooping around our territory. Duke explained. Figured he might have something interesting to share. Evelyn approached the terrified prospect. She recognized him, one of the newer recruits, barely old enough to drink. What's your name, kid? T.T. Kenny. He stammered after Duke removed the gag. All right, Kenny, let's talk about the shipment coming in with Volkov. Kenny's eyes widened. I don't know anything about. Save it. Evelyn cut him off. You're wearing a prospect cut, which means you do the grunt work. Loading, unloading, keeping watch. You know things. The question is, are you willing to share those things? Or do we have to get creative? The young man swallowed hard. They'll kill me. Kid, Duke growled. What do you think they'll do when they find out you got caught on our turf? Kenny broke. The words poured out. Shipping schedules. Guard rotations. The layout of the compound. But it was his last piece of information that made Evelyn's blood run cold. They've got some kind of list, he said. Names. Locations. Volkov's bringing it personally. Rico said it's worth more than all the weapons combined. Evelyn and Duke exchanged looks. A list like that could expose entire trafficking networks or reveal every corrupt official on Volkov's payroll. One more thing, Kenny added, his voice shaking. They know someone's working against them. Rico called an extra muscle. Professional guys, not just bikers. Evelyn's phone buzzed again. Sanchez, problem. Thompson just suspended Carter. Named Rico's brother as interim sheriff. Put him somewhere safe, Evelyn told Duke, nodding toward Kenny. He might be useful later. Back at the diner, Evelyn found Sanchez waiting with Carter and Martha. The former sheriff looked defeated. They're moving faster than we expected, Carter said. Thompson called it a routine administrative review. But we all know what this means. They're consolidating power before Volkov arrives. Sanchez added, my badge probably won't be worth much by morning. Evelyn considered their options. With Carter out and legitimate law enforcement compromised, they'd lost their official cover. Her phone buzzed yet again. Mike, satellite shows major movement. Multiple vehicles converging on your location. Professional operators. Not gang members. Watch yourself. As if on cue, 3 black SUVs with tinted windows rolled slowly past the diner. They're not even trying to be subtle anymore. Sanchez muttered. They don't need to be, Evelyn replied. They think they've got control of the town. That makes them confident. Confidence makes them sloppy. Martha watched the SUVs disappear around the corner. What do we do now? We changed the plan, Evelyn said firmly. They're expecting resistance from law enforcement or rival gangs. So we give them exactly what they're watching for. While we hit them from a direction they'll never see coming. The Iron Wolves? Carter asked. Part of it. But we've got another card to play. Evelyn pulled out her phone, dialing Mike. Remember that favor you owe me? I need satellite coverage. Real time. And I need you to make some calls. It's time to wake up some old ghosts. As night fell over the town, more black SUVs arrived. Professional mercenaries mixed with steel serpent members, setting up checkpoints and patrol routes. They were preparing for war, but they were preparing for the wrong kind of fight. In the basement of Martha's diner, Evelyn laid out the revised plan to her core team. The Iron Wolves would play their part, making noise and drawing attention. Sanchez and Carter would work their remaining law enforcement contacts. Martha's evidence would be their insurance policy, but the operation that would come from the shadows, executed by people who specialized in the impossible. Tomorrow, Evelyn told them, Volkov arrives with his precious list and his international contacts. He's expecting to find a town under his complete control. Instead, he's going to find out what happens when you underestimate the wrong people. Outside, thunder rolled across the bay. A storm was coming to Port Haven. By the time it was over, nothing would be the same. Evelyn's phone lit up with a series of encrypted messages. The first was from Mike. Ghost team activated. 6 operators, all former teammates. They're yours if you want them. The second was from an unknown number. Commander, Ghost lead here. Team is in position, awaiting your orders. The third was from Duke. My people report Volkov's advance team doing recon. They're thorough, professional. These aren't regular muscle. Evelyn gathered her team closer. Listen carefully. What I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room. In about 6 hours, Volkov and his people are going to execute what they think is a perfect takeover of this town. They have the numbers, the weapons, and a tactical advantage. What they don't have is the understanding of who they're really fighting. She spread out a detailed map of Port Haven. They're watching the streets, the obvious approaches. They've got eyes on law enforcement, on the Iron Wolves, on anyone they think might resist. But they're not watching the shadows. And that's where we're going to hurt them. The Ghost team, Sanchez said quietly. They're real? Evelyn nodded. 6 operators, all former special operations. People who owe me favors, who know how to move without being seen. They've been in position since yesterday, mapping patrol routes, identifying vulnerabilities. Carter studied the map. Even with them, we're still outnumbered. Numbers don't win fights, Evelyn replied. Position, timing, and initiative do. Besides, we're not looking to win a straight fight. Martha spread out her notebook. I've marked every business they're using to launder money, every warehouse where they store contraband. If we hit them all at once. Chaos. Duke finished. They won't know where to focus their response. Evelyn's phone buzzed again. Mike, final satellite pass shows Volkov's convoy is mobilizing. Multiple vehicles. Heavy security. ETA 0600. Perfect, Evelyn said. That gives us 5 hours to get everything in place. Duke, get your people ready. Sanchez, Carter, coordinate with the Ghost team's recon. Martha. The older woman smiled. I know. Stay out of sight and let the professionals work. Actually, Evelyn said, I need you to open the diner at the usual time. Act normal. Volkov's people will be watching. If anything's different, they'll know something's wrong. Martha straightened her apron. Honey, I've been serving coffee to criminals for years while gathering evidence against them. I think I can handle one more morning. Thunder crashed outside as Evelyn checked her weapons one final time. Remember, she told her team, we're not just defending, we're hunting. These people came to our home thinking we'd be easy prey. Let's show them what happens when predators become prey. The rain intensified as enemy operators moved through the darkened streets. Their night vision equipment gave them confidence. But Evelyn knew it would also be their weakness. They were looking through a digital green haze, while her people knew every shadow by heart. Ghost lead. Status? Evelyn whispered into her radio. First team moving into the kill zone. 20 operators moving in 4-man cells. Heavy weapons. Demo gear. Duke, Iron Wolves in position, ready to create chaos on your mark. Evelyn watched through her scope as the enemy's lead element approached Martha's diner. They moved well, covering angles, checking corners professional. Dangerous, but predictable. Execute phase 2, she ordered. Across town, the Iron Wolves roared to life, their motorcycles thundering through the streets in what appeared to be a panicked evacuation. The enemy operators reacted exactly as trained, splitting their forces to investigate the new threat. They're divided. Ghost 2 reported. Second convoy moving to intercept the bikers. Sanchez. Now. From her position at the old sheriff's office, Sanchez triggered the prepared devices. Strategic transformers blew, plunging new sections of town into darkness while illuminating others. The enemy's night vision equipment suddenly became a liability as they dealt with rapidly changing light conditions. Multiple targets disoriented. Ghost 3 confirmed. Moving to engage. The first shots were silent. Suppressed weapons taking out key targets in the enemy's command structure. By the time they realized they were under attack, the Ghost team had already melted away to new positions. Commander, Mike's voice came through her earpiece. Third convoy is holding back. Their commander's smart. He's realized something's wrong. Good, Evelyn replied. That's what the package is for. On cue, she transmitted a burst of encrypted data, the fake list from a location near the center of town. As predicted, the enemy electronic warfare team picked up the transmission. They're moving, Ghost lead reported. All units converging on the transmission source. Evelyn smiled grimly. Phase 3. All units. Execute at will. The storm above provided perfect cover as the real battle began. The Iron Wolves abandoned their decoy run, instead launching coordinated attacks on the enemy's vehicles. Ghost team operators picked off anyone who tried to call for backup or establish a command position. But it was the townspeople who proved most effective. Every door that looked like an escape route led to a prepared ambush. Every shadow concealed a defender who knew exactly where to shoot. The enemy operators found themselves fighting phantoms, never able to establish control or consolidate their forces. Commander, Duke's voice was tight with controlled excitement. They're falling back to preset rally points. No, Evelyn ordered. They're falling back to where we want them. The fake list data had led them straight into the town's old warehouse district. A maze of buildings rigged with motion sensors and prepared firing positions. As the enemy operators sought cover, they found themselves being herded into increasingly smaller spaces. Ghost team status. 15 targets eliminated. 20 plus wounded. Rest are contained in the warehouse sector. Evelyn switched channels. Mike, what's the third convoy doing? Finally moving in. Their commander must have realized his advance teams are being decimated. Perfect. Sanchez, initiate final sequence. The remaining streetlights shut down completely, plunging the town into total darkness. The storm above intensified, rain hammering down as lightning split the sky. Through her thermal scope, Evelyn watched the remaining enemy forces cluster together in the warehouses. Their training told them to consolidate, to establish a defensive position. Instead, they were doing exactly what she'd planned, gathering in one location. All units be advised. Phase 4 is active. I say again, Phase 4 is weapons-free. The remaining enemy operators never saw it coming. Ghost team snipers took out their leadership. Iron Wolves cut off their escape routes. And the townspeople, led by Carter and Sanchez, maintained a constant barrage that kept them pinned down. But it was Evelyn who delivered the final blow, moving through the rain like a shadow as she approached the main warehouse where the enemy commander had established his last position, a man who'd led the third convoy, the one who'd held back, thinking he was smarter than the rest. Time to show him just how wrong he was. All units, Hold position, she ordered. This one's personal. Lightning flashed again as Evelyn moved toward the warehouse entrance. The real fight was about to begin. Lightning illuminated the warehouse interior as Evelyn moved silently through the shadows. Her thermal scope revealed 6 heat signatures on the upper level, the enemy commander and his remaining elite team. Ghost lead, maintain overwatch. She whispered, no one leaves this building. Copy that. Commander, we got you covered. The warehouse floor was a maze of old machinery and storage, crates perfect cover, but also perfect for ambush. Evelyn could hear the enemy team communicating in whispers, their voices carrying a familiar cadence. Former special operations. She realized. Navy SEALs who'd gone mercenary. Commander. Mike's voice came through her earpiece. Got an ID on their leader, Dominic the Serpent Volkov. He was in Singapore. Evelyn's blood ran cold. Volkov had been there the day her teammates died, working for a different contractor. He disappeared before anyone could question his role in the operation's failure. So, Volkov's voice echoed through the warehouse. The famous Commander Hayes. Been a long time since Singapore. Not long enough. Volkov, you know why we're here. Give us the list, and maybe some of these townspeople survive the night. Evelyn moved between shadows, changing positions, still staying hidden, still hiding behind civilian casualties. Volkov, just like Singapore. A burst of gunfire replied, rounds impacting where she'd been seconds before. These weren't random shots. Volkov's team was trying to herd her into a kill zone. Singapore was business. Volkov called out, just like this is. You really think your little town can stand against what's coming? The Steel Serpents were just the beginning. Ghost Team status on the other forces? Contained and neutralized. Iron Wolves are running cleanup. Only targets remaining are in your building. Hear that, Volkov? Evelyn replied. Your backup isn't coming. More gunfire. More controlled this time. They were getting frustrated, making mistakes. 2 operators moved to flank her position, but Evelyn was already gone. You don't get it, do you? Volkov's voice was closer now. The Steel Serpent organization wasn't the head of the snake. We are. That list contains everything, every operation, every contract, every killer for hire. With that data, we control it all. Wrong, Evelyn replied, her voice echoing. You don't control anything. Not anymore. She triggered the devices Sanchez had planted earlier. Flashbangs detonated on the upper level, followed by smoke grenades. The enemy's night vision equipment became worse than useless as the warehouse filled with disorienting light and smoke. Ghost Team, external threats? Negative. Commander, building is secure. No reinforcements approaching. Evelyn moved upward, using the chaos to her advantage. The first operator never saw her coming, a quick strike to the throat, another to the temple. Silent. Efficient. The second tried to radio for help, but received only static. The town's radio jammers were still active, cutting off all communication. It's over. Volkov. Evelyn called out. Your men are dead or captured. Your operation is blown. Surrender now. Like your team surrendered in Singapore? The taunt was meant to enrage her, make her sloppy. Instead, it brought perfect clarity through the smoke and strobing lights. Evelyn moved like a ghost. The third and fourth operators fell to precise shots. The fifth managed to get off a burst of fire before Evelyn's knife found his throat. Then it was just her and Volkov. You know what your problem is. Hayes? His voice was behind her now. You still think like a sailor. Honor, duty, protecting the innocent. The world doesn't work that way anymore. You're wrong. Evelyn turned, facing him. That's exactly how it works. You just forgot. They moved simultaneously. Volkov was good, one of the best. His strikes were precise, powerful. But Evelyn had something he didn't, a reason to win that went beyond money or power. The fight was brutal and close. Bones cracked. Blood flowed. Volkov landed a crushing blow to her ribs. But Evelyn absorbed it, countering with a strike that shattered his knee. Ghost team status? She managed between breaths. Still clear. Commander. In this. As Volkov stumbled, Evelyn saw her opening the same move she'd used countless times in training. The one they taught every sailor. This is for Singapore, she said, and struck. Volkov's eyes widened as he fell. His last words barely a whisper. You don't know what you've done. Evelyn stood over him, breathing hard. Actually, I do. Mike. Uploading now. Evelyn spoke into her radio, standing over Volkov's unconscious form. The real list, downloaded from their servers while they were chasing our decoy. Every name, every operation, currently being transmitted to every major intelligence agency worldwide. The storm outside was finally passing, dawn breaking over Port Haven. Through her thermal scope, Evelyn could see the rest of Volkov's team being rounded up by the Ghost operators and Iron Wolves. The Steel Serpents who hadn't fled were surrendering, realizing their protection had evaporated. Commander, Ghost Lead's voice crackled through her radio. We've secured the port facilities. Found something interesting. Shipping manifests, bank records, political payoffs. Goes way beyond weapon smuggling. Evelyn moved to secure Volkov, zip-tying his hands. How deep? State level, at least. Maybe higher. Volkov wasn't lying about one thing. This was bigger than the Steel Serpents. Sanchez's voice joined the channel. Evelyn, we got movement at City Hall. Thompson and half the council are trying to leave town. Carter's team has them contained. Keep them there. The FBI want to talk to them. Evelyn keyed her radio again. Duke, status on the streets? Clean. My boys are running security with the remaining deputies. Town's locked down tight. No one in or out without us knowing. Evelyn did one final sweep of the warehouse, gathering any intelligence they might have missed. In Volkov's jacket, she found a phone with multiple encrypted channels and a small notebook filled with codes, more evidence for the federal authorities to unravel. Betty's voice came unexpectedly over the radio. They'd given her a spare unit to stay in contact. Honey, you might want to get back to the diner. We've got company. Hostile? Unless the FBI's gotten a lot more aggressive since I last checked. I'd say friendly. About a dozen agents in suits, looking very official. Their boss says she knows you. Ramirez? Evelyn smiled. Special Agent Anna Ramirez had been her contact during the Singapore operation. Tell her I'll be there in 10. And Martha? Put some coffee on. It's going to be a long morning. The scene at Martha's diner was almost surreal. FBI agents mingled with Iron Wolves members. Deputies chatted with Ghost Team operators who'd already changed into civilian clothes. And Martha moved through it all with pots of coffee and plates of her famous apple pie. Commander Hayes. Ramirez greeted her with a professional nod. Or should I say, the retired commander who somehow managed to expose a multinational criminal enterprise from a small-town diner? Just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Ramirez smiled. Right. And I suppose the highly trained operators who helped take down Volkov's organization just happened to be passing through? Or the fact that the Iron Wolves MC is actually a cover for former Special Forces operators? Duke, who just walked in, laughed. Ma'am, sometimes the best way to hide is in plain sight. Nobody looks twice at another motorcycle club. We've been tracking Volkov for years. Ramirez continued, spreading files across the counter. Could never get close enough. Then you show up, start trouble with a local gang, and within a week, his entire operation falls apart. Want to explain that? Evelyn accepted a cup of coffee from Martha. Sometimes, bullies need to learn they picked the wrong target. The list you transmitted, It's already causing waves. Criminal networks worldwide are scrambling. Corrupted officials are resigning. We've got enough evidence to take down organizations we didn't even know existed. Carter joined them, looking tired but satisfied. Thompson and the council are singing like canaries. Turns out they've been on Volkov's payroll for years, helping him set up shell companies, looking the other way while he built his operation. The Steel Serpents? Evelyn asked. Most of the rank and file are in custody, Sanchez reported. Rico and his inner circle tried to run, but the Iron Wolves intercepted them at the county line. They're feeling chatty too, especially after we showed them the evidence Martha collected. Martha smiled innocently. Amazing what people will say when they think the old diner owner isn't paying attention. Ramirez shook her head in admiration. A Navy commander, a motorcycle club full of spec ops veterans, a sheriff's deputy, and a diner owner with a secret notebook. Sounds like the beginning of a bad joke. Sometimes the best operations come from unlikely alliances, Evelyn replied. Speaking of operations, Ramirez lowered her voice. That ghost team of yours, any chance they're interested in more work? We've got other criminal enterprises that could use their attention. You have to ask them. Evelyn smiled. If you can find them. The ghost operators had already disappeared, leaving no trace of their presence. They'd returned to their normal lives until the next time they were needed. It was their way. Through the diner's windows, Evelyn could see Port Haven coming back to life. The morning sun revealed some damage from the night's fighting, but nothing that couldn't be repaired. More importantly, she saw townspeople walking the streets without fear, holding their heads high. What happens now? Martha asked, refilling coffee cups. Now, Carter said, we rebuild. Proper law enforcement. Legitimate business development. Do things right. Already got calls from neighboring towns. Duke added. Seems words spreading about what happened here. Other communities dealing with similar problems. Looking for help. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. Looking for help. Or looking for hope? Both. Probably. Sanchez answered. People need to know they can stand up to bullies, that they don't have to live in fear. And if they need more than just hope? Ramirez asked pointedly. Evelyn looked around the diner. At Martha's quiet strength, Carter's dedication, Sanchez's determination, Duke's professionalism, a team that had come together by chance but had proven more effective than any official task force. Then they'll find it, she said finally, one way or another. Her phone buzzed with a message from Mike. Satellite tracking shows similar operations setting up in 3 other coastal towns. Ghost team standing by if needed. Evelyn smiled. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. But this time, she wasn't facing it alone. She had a team, a purpose, and a home worth protecting. Betty, she called out, better stock up on coffee. Something tells me your diner's going to stay busy. Martha winked. Honey, my coffee pot's always ready, and my notebook's got plenty of blank pages left. After all, somebody's got to keep track of what really happens in these small towns. Outside, the storm had passed completely, leaving behind a sky as clear as Evelyn's conscience. Volkov and his operation were finished. But more importantly, Port Haven had found its strength. The town would never be the same. It would be better. 3 months after the takedown of Volkov's operation, Martha's diner was busier than ever. The basement, once a simple storage space, had been renovated into what Martha jokingly called the Situation Room, a secure meeting place for Evelyn and her expanding network of allies. Evelyn sat at her usual booth, reviewing reports from Duke's teams about suspicious activity along the coast. Sanchez, now officially appointed as the new sheriff after Carter's retirement, joined her with fresh coffee. Got something interesting, Sanchez said, sliding a file across the table. Remember those warehouse raids last week? Found documentation linking 3 state officials to Volkov's old network. They're scrambling since the list went public. Evelyn's attention shifted to the TV mounted in the corner, showing footage of another high-profile arrest, a weapons dealer with connections to Volkov, taken down in a neighboring state by unknown operators. She smiled, recognizing Ghost Team's handiwork. "Your friends have been busy," Sanchez commented. "What friends? I just see effective law enforcement at work." The diner's door chimed as Carter entered with Duke and Ramirez, all looking serious. "Problem?" Evelyn asked. Ramirez placed a laptop on the table, showing surveillance photos. "Remember how we thought Volkov's operation was just about weapons? Turns out that was just the surface. We found evidence of human trafficking routes using the same corridors as the weapons shipments. Multiple small towns involved." Carter added, "Local officials bought off. Sound familiar?" Evelyn studied the photos. The pattern was clear. The same methods Volkov had used, now being employed by others trying to fill the power vacuum. "How many towns?" she asked. "At least 6 that we know of," Duke replied. "All small, isolated, vulnerable, just like Port Haven was." Martha appeared with more coffee and her infamous apple pie. "Sounds like someone should do something about that." "Already happening," Ramirez said. "Federal task force is being assembled. Very unofficial. Very deniable. They're looking for someone to coordinate ground operations." Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess. You recommended someone?" "Actually," Duke interjected, "we all did. The Iron Wolves need direction for their more specialized operations. Ghost Team operates better with familiar command, and having a sheriff's special advisor provides useful cover." "Plus," Martha added, "you need something to do between teaching those self-defense classes." The classes had been Evelyn's idea, helping townspeople protect themselves, building confidence and community. The waiting list was now 3 months long. "What about here?" Evelyn asked. "This town still needs protecting." Sanchez smiled. "We've learned a few things. Besides, you won't be far. Just expanding the definition of home territory." Evelyn's phone buzzed with a message from Mike. "Got movement on those trafficking cases. Time sensitive. Team standing by for your call." She looked around at her unlikely family. Martha's quiet strength, Sanchez's determined leadership, Carter's steady wisdom, Duke's tactical expertise, Ramirez's official backing, all part of something larger now. A network dedicated to protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. "You know what the real problem was with Volkov and operations like his?" Evelyn said, studying the surveillance photos. "They prey on towns like Port Haven because they think small communities are weak. They mistake kindness for weakness, quiet for cowardice. They forget that small towns are built on community." Martha added, "Refilling coffee cups. On people looking out for each other." "Exactly," Evelyn continued. "Volkov thought he could control this town through fear and corruption. He never understood that real strength doesn't come from having the most guns or the most money. It comes from people standing together." Sanchez finished. Evelyn's phone buzzed again. This time a message from Ghost Lead. "Team assembled. Multiple targets identified. Awaiting your command." Outside, a group of Iron Wolves rode past on patrol, their presence now a comfort to the townspeople rather than a source of fear. Through the diner's windows, Evelyn could see Port Haven thriving, businesses reopening, families walking without fear, community returning stronger than ever. "You know what I learned in the Navy?" Evelyn said, looking at her team. "The most effective operations aren't always about having the biggest force or the most advanced equipment. Sometimes, it's about having the right people in the right place, working together for the right reasons." "And now other towns need that same lesson," Ramirez added. Evelyn nodded. Volkov and his people thought small towns were easy targets. They were wrong about Port Haven, and we're going to make sure they're wrong about these other towns too. Expanding operations will be complicated, Duke warned, we'll need more resources, more coordination. Good thing we got a diner with a secure basement. He smiled. And plenty of coffee. And good thing we've got people who know how to move in the shadows. Sanchez added, nodding to where a ghost team member sat quietly in the corner, blending in perfectly with the morning crowd. Evelyn's phone lit up with multiple messages. Mike, satellite coverage confirmed for next operation. Ghost lead, teams in position at 3 locations. Duke, Iron Wolves ready to move. Ramirez, federal backup, standing by. Off the books. Well, Evelyn said, opening her laptop. Show me what we know about these towns. Let's help them like we helped Port Haven. Martha placed a fresh slice of pie in front of her. Just remember, honey, no matter how far you roam, you've always got a home base here. And my coffee pot's always on. She paused. And my notebook's got plenty of blank pages. She added with a wink. Evelyn smiled. The fight wasn't over. It was evolving, growing. But now she had something she'd never had before. A true team. A clear purpose. And a home worth fighting for. Volkov had thought he was building an empire. But he'd actually helped create something far more powerful. A network of people dedicated to protecting the vulnerable and standing up to bullies. Wherever they appeared. All right. Evelyn said, addressing her team. Let's get to work. We got some towns to save. The sun was setting over Port Haven when Mike's emergency alert came through. Major operation forming in Cedar Grove. Pattern matches Volkov's playbook. Multiple hostile forces converging. Local law enforcement compromised. Evelyn studied the satellite imagery Mike had sent. Cedar Grove was 3 hours north. Another small coastal town similar to Port Haven. Population 5,000. Isolated. Vulnerable. Perfect target for criminal enterprises looking to establish new territory. What do we know? Evelyn asked during the emergency briefing in Martha's basement. Ramirez pulled up files on the screen. Town's been seeing increased criminal activity over the past month. Motorcycle gang called the Night Raiders moved in first. Started with the usual protection rackets. Now we're seeing the same signs we saw here. Corrupt officials. Suspicious port activity. Unexplained wealth. They're following Volkov's template exactly. Duke observed, using the gang as cover while they set up the real operation. Sanchez pointed to surveillance photos. These aren't regular gang members. See their movement patterns? Professional military training. They're using the Night Raiders like Volkov used the Steel Serpents. Local resistance? Evelyn asked. Some. Carter replied. Sheriff, there is clean, but isolated. Mayor's in the Raiders' pocket. Towns divided. Scared. Just like we were. Martha, who'd been quietly taking notes, spoke up. Got a call from a diner owner there. Linda Peterson. She's been gathering evidence. Just like I did. Says things are coming to a head. They're moving something big through the port tomorrow night. Evelyn's phone buzzed again. Ghost lead. Advanced team in position. Confirming heavy enemy presence. At least 40 operators. Well equipped. They're expecting resistance. Good. Evelyn said. Let's give them more than they expect. Duke. Iron Wolves can be ready in 2 hours. 15 riders. All combat veterans. Sanchez. I can spare 6 deputies. All trained in the new protocols. Ramirez. Unofficial federal backing, as always. And I've got 3 teams of agents who'd love to accidentally be in the right place at the right time. Evelyn nodded, formulating the plan. They're expecting conventional resistance. Local law enforcement, maybe rival gangs. We give them what they're expecting. Let them think they've got everything under control. Meanwhile, Ghost Team hits them from the shadows. Carter finished. Exactly. Martha, contact Linda. Tell her to be ready, but stay safe. Her evidence will be crucial later. Already did. Honey, she's smarter than they think. Just like someone else I know. Evelyn spread out a map of Cedar Grove. They've got numbers and equipment, but we've got something better: experience. We know their playbook because we've seen it before. More importantly, we know how to beat it. Her phone lit up with messages from the team. Mike, satellite coverage confirmed. Full monitoring package. Ghost lead. Target packages identified. Awaiting go order. Duke, Iron Wolves rolling. ETA, 3 hours. Sanchez, deputies mobile. Moving in civilian vehicles. Remember, Evelyn addressed her team. These people think small towns are easy targets. They think they can walk in, buy a few officials, intimidate the locals, and take control. They're about to learn the same lesson Volkov learned. Sometimes the most dangerous threat isn't the one you can see coming. Speaking of lessons, Martha added, Linda says the night raiders have been pressuring local businesses, pushing people around. Sounds like they need a reminder about picking the wrong targets. Evelyn smiled. Then let's give them one they won't forget. The next few hours were a blur of activity. The Iron Wolves departed in small groups, taking different routes to avoid attention. Sanchez's deputies moved out, disguised as civilian traffic. Ghost Team reported final positions around Cedar Grove. Even Martha's network of diner owners along the coast was activated, providing safe houses and gathering intelligence. As Evelyn geared up for the operation, she looked around the basement at her core team. What had started as a simple act of standing up to bullies had evolved into something much more, a specialized unit dedicated to protecting small towns from those who would prey on them. Remember Port Haven? She told them. Remember how it felt to be afraid, to think you were alone against something too big to fight. Cedar Grove feels that way right now. Tonight, we show them they're not alone. We show them that small towns can fight back. Her phone buzzed one final time. Multiple vehicles entering Cedar Grove. Heavy weapons. Professional operators. Whatever they're planning, it's happening soon. Good, Evelyn replied. Because so are we. Ramirez checked her weapon. You know, when I was assigned to investigate Volkov's operation, I never expected to end up part of a secret task force protecting small towns. Life's funny that way, Martha said, handing out fresh coffee in travel mugs. Sometimes you find your true calling in the last place you'd expect. Mount up, Evelyn ordered. Ghost Team is in position. Iron Wolves are nearing the target. Sanchez's deputies are in place. Time to show these people why you don't underestimate small towns. As they moved out, Evelyn thought about how much had changed since that morning in Martha's diner, when two bikers thought they could intimidate a quiet woman drinking coffee. They'd started a chain of events that would reshape not just Port Haven, but small towns up and down the coast. Ready to make some new bullies regret their life choices? Sanchez asked, checking her tactical gear. Evelyn chambered a round in her weapon. More than ready. Let's go teach the night raiders why you should always be careful who you pick a fight with. Outside, engines roared to life as the team prepared to move out. The night was clear, stars shining bright over Port Haven. Somewhere north, Cedar Grove was about to learn that they weren't alone in their fight. And the people trying to take over their town were about to learn a harsh lesson about underestimating small towns and the people who protected them. The approach to Cedar Grove was executed with military precision. Evelyn's team moved in stages, careful to avoid drawing attention. Ghost Team operators had already mapped the night raiders' patrol routes and security positions, identifying vulnerabilities in their defenses. Ghost lead. Status? Evelyn whispered into her radio as they neared the town limits. Enemy forces concentrated around the port area. Main group appears to be preparing for a major shipment. Secondary forces patrolling town center. They've got the sheriff's office surrounded. Confirmed. Duke added. My scouts report heavy weapons. Professional operators mixed with gang members. They're expecting trouble, but looking in the wrong direction. Evelyn checked the satellite feed on her tablet. The night raiders had set up checkpoints at all major roads into town. but they'd left the old logging trails unwatched. Amateur mistake. Sanchez, your people in position? Affirmative. Deputies are spread through town, all in civilian cover, ready to move on your signal. Ramirez. FBI teams are standing by, disguised as fishing boats offshore. They'll move in once we have evidence of criminal activity. Evelyn's phone lit up with a message from Linda Peterson, the local diner owner. Large group just came in, all armed. Try not to show it. Their leader's meeting with the mayor in my back room. Got the recorder running, like Martha showed me. Good girl, Martha remarked, monitoring communications from the mobile command center they'd set up in a modified RV. She's got ice in her veins. That one. Evelyn studied the tactical display. The night raiders had turned Cedar Grove into a fortress, but they'd made the same mistake Volkov had. They were preparing for a conventional assault, not understanding that their greatest threat would come from within. All units, execute Phase 1, Evelyn ordered. Across Cedar Grove, carefully planned distractions began. The Iron Wolves launched their signature loud approach from the east, drawing attention. Sanchez's deputies, positioned in civilian vehicles, created a traffic jam at the main checkpoint. Ghost Team operators triggered false alarms at several warehouses. They're splitting their forces, Ghost Lead reported. Just like Port Haven. Evelyn watched through her scope as the enemy commanders tried to coordinate their response. Their radio communications, intercepted by Mike's equipment, showed growing confusion. Unknown riders approaching from the east. One voice crackled. Multiple civilian vehicles blocking Route 1. Possible breach at Warehouse 3. No. Warehouse 5. Wait. Alarms at all locations. They're losing control of their security perimeter, Duke observed with satisfaction. Evelyn keyed her radio. Phase 2. Ghost Team, you have weapons free on designated targets. Duke, begin your run. Sanchez, light them up. The real attack began with surgical precision. Ghost Team operators eliminated key enemy commanders with suppressed weapons. The Iron Wolves' distraction turned into a genuine assault on the Night Raiders' outer defenses. Sanchez's deputies emerged from their civilian covers, targeting specific enemies identified by their intel. Linda reports the leaders panicking. Martha relayed, he's trying to call in reinforcements, but our jammers are blocking communications. Good. Time for Phase 3. Evelyn moved forward with her personal team, a mix of Ghost operators and Iron Wolves veterans. They headed for the port facility where, according to their intelligence, the Night Raiders were preparing to receive a major shipment. Commander, Ghost Lead's voice was tight with controlled excitement. You need to see this. Northwest Warehouse. Main storage area. Evelyn diverted to the location, moving silently through the chaos of battle. Inside the warehouse, she found what the Night Raiders had been hiding. Dozens of shipping containers, each filled with weapons, drugs, and detailed logs of criminal operations. Just like Volkov, she muttered, they're not just taking over the town, they're setting up a distribution hub. Evelyn, Sanchez's voice cut in urgently. We've got movement in the diner. The leader's trying to run. Not happening. Evelyn switched channels. Ghost 3 and 4 converge on Linda's diner. Duke, cut off their escape routes. Martha, tell Linda to get clear. The Night Raiders leader made it 3 steps out of the diner's back door before finding himself surrounded by Ghost Team operators. The mayor, trying to slip away in the confusion, was caught by Sanchez's deputies. Commander, Ramirez called. We've got enough evidence. FBI teams are moving in. Evelyn watched as the carefully constructed operation fell apart. The Night Raiders, their leadership eliminated and their plans in chaos, began surrendering. The professional operators, realizing they'd been outmaneuvered, tried to flee but found every escape route blocked. Just like Port Haven, Carter observed through the radio. They never saw it coming. Because they made the same mistakes. Evelyn replied. They thought they could take over a small town through fear and intimidation. They never understood that small towns have their own strength. As the sun rose over Cedar Grove, the full scope of their victory became clear. The night raiders were in custody, their criminal enterprise exposed. The corrupted officials were being arrested. And most importantly, the townspeople were emerging from their homes, realizing they were finally free. Linda's serving free coffee to everyone. Martha reported with satisfaction. Says it's a new day for Cedar Grove. Evelyn smiled, remembering similar scenes in Port Haven months ago. Make sure she knows she's not alone anymore. No small town is, not while we're around. Her phone buzzed with a message from Mike. Similar pattern detected in 3 other coastal towns. Ghost team standing by. Looks like our work isn't done, Sanchez observed. Evelyn checked her weapon, already thinking about the next operation. It's never done, but that's okay. Someone has to stand up for these towns. And remind the bullies why they should be careful who they pick fights with, Martha added. Exactly, Evelyn agreed, watching the FBI boats approach the harbor. Because sometimes the most dangerous person isn't the one with the biggest gang or the most guns. Sometimes, Betty finished. It's the quiet woman drinking coffee in a small town diner, just waiting for someone to make the mistake of causing trouble. 6 months after the takedown of Volkov's operation, Evelyn's network had grown beyond anything she could have imagined. The basement of Martha's diner had become the nerve center for operations protecting small towns all along the coast. Martha's wall of intelligence had expanded to include maps, photos, and evidence collected from multiple operations. We got movement, Sanchez announced, entering the basement command center. Remember those shipping manifests we found in Cedar Grove? Just match them to activities in Millbrook Harbor. Evelyn looked up from her tactical display. The fishing town? What's the pattern? Same as Port Haven and Cedar Grove. Small gang moves in first. Starts pushing people around. Then the professionals arrive, looking to set up shipping operations. Duke, who'd been monitoring communications, added his report. Gang calls themselves the Harbor Kings. Local law enforcement's already compromised. Mayor's son just bought a new yacht he shouldn't be able to afford. They're not even trying to be subtle anymore, Carter observed. It's like they're following a playbook. They are, Ramirez confirmed, spreading out new files. We've identified a pattern. After we shut down Volkov's operation, his associates scattered. Now, they're each trying to rebuild his empire. Piece by piece, small towns, corrupt officials, legitimate businesses as fronts. Evelyn's phone buzzed with an update from Ghost Lead. Surveillance confirms heavy weapon shipments moving through Millbrook Harbor. Professional security teams on site. They're building something big. How many times do they have to learn? Martha wondered, pouring fresh coffee. Small towns aren't easy targets anymore. They haven't learned, Evelyn replied. They still think Port Haven and Cedar Grove were flukes. They don't understand what they're really facing. Sanchez pulled up the satellite imagery. Ghost teams identified 3 main compounds the Harbor Kings are using. Old fishing warehouses as cover. Local police chiefs been ordered to stay away. Just like Thompson did here, Carter noted. Difference is, Duke added, we know their moves now. We can get ahead of them. Evelyn's phone lit up with a series of messages. Mike, facial recognition matched 3 former Volkov associates in Millbrook. Ghost Lead, target packages ready. Teams in position. Iron Wolf Scout, Harbor Patrol bought off. No official response incoming. They think they're being clever, Evelyn said, studying the intel, using the same methods that worked for Volkov, thinking lightning can't strike 3 times. Want to prove them wrong? Sanchez asked, checking her tactical gear. Not yet. Evelyn pulled up more satellite footage. Look at their patrol patterns. They're expecting resistance from local law enforcement or rival gangs. Just like the others, they're preparing for the wrong kind of fight. Martha approached with a fresh pot of coffee and a knowing smile. Got a call from Millbrook's local diner owner. Diane Miller says the Harbor Kings have been pressuring businesses, making examples of anyone who resists. Reminds me of some other bullies we dealt with. History repeating itself. Carter mused. No, Evelyn corrected. History teaching a lesson. One these people refuse to learn. Ramirez checked her secure phone. FBI teams are ready. Off the books as usual. Ghost team in position? Evelyn asked. Affirmative. 6 operators spread through key locations. They've mapped every patrol route. Identified all security weaknesses. Iron Wolves? Duke grinned. 20 riders ready to raise hell on your command. Sanchez? 10 deputies, all veterans of Cedar Grove. They know the playbook. Evelyn stood, addressing her assembled team. These people think they're smart, following Volkov's methods. They don't realize that's exactly why they'll fail. We know their moves before they make them. We know their weaknesses before they show them. She activated the main tactical display, showing Millbrook Harbor's layout. They're expecting the usual threats, local cops, rival guns, maybe a federal investigation. What they're not expecting is us, a ghost team that can strike from anywhere. Iron Wolves who know how to fight smarter, not just harder. Deputies trained in our methods. And most importantly, a network of small towns ready to stand together. Martha added fresh intel from her diner network. Word is they're moving something big tomorrow night. Some kind of demonstration to show other towns what happens if they resist. Perfect timing. Evelyn smiled. Let's show them what happens when they mess with the wrong towns. She checked her own gear as her team prepared for deployment. Remember Port Haven? She told them. Remember Cedar Grove? Remember every small town these people thought they could control through fear and corruption. Tonight, we add Millbrook Harbor to that list. Her phone buzzed one final time. Mike, multiple hostile forces converging on Millbrook. Whatever they're planning, it's big. Good, Evelyn replied. So is our response. As her team moved out, Evelyn thought about that morning in Martha's diner when 2 bikers thought they could intimidate their way to control. They'd started something they never expected, a network dedicated to protecting small towns from those who would prey on them. Ready to teach some new bullies an old lesson? Sanchez asked, checking her weapons. Evelyn chambered a round in her rifle. Always. Let's show the Harbor Kings why smart predators avoid small towns these days. Outside, engines roared to life as the team prepared to move. The night was clear, perfect for their operation. Somewhere out there, the Harbor Kings thought they were about to demonstrate their power. Instead, they were about to become another example of why you should never underestimate small towns, or the quiet warriors who protected them. Martha, Evelyn called back as they prepared to leave. Keep the coffee hot. Something tells me we'll need it when we get back. Always do. Honey, Martha smiled, and I've got a fresh notebook ready for Millbrook's story. Something tells me it's going to be another good one. The approach to Millbrook Harbor was executed in complete silence. Under the cover of darkness, Evelyn's team moved into position while Ghost Team operators had already infiltrated key locations throughout the port facility. Through her night vision goggles, Evelyn could see the Harbor King security patrols moving with the false confidence of those who thought they were untouchable. Ghost lead. Status? Evelyn whispered into her radio. All targets marked. Hostile force significantly larger than anticipated. Counting 50 plus opérateurs. Military-grade equipment. They got something big planned. Duke's voice crackled through the comms. Confirmed. My scouts report heavy weapons being moved into position around the harbor. They're fortifying for something. Evelyn studied the thermal imagery on her tactical display. The Harbor Kings had transformed 3 warehouses into fortified compounds, with professional security teams protecting what appeared to be a massive weapons cache. Sanchez, your people in position? Affirmative. Deputies are embedded throughout the town. Ready on your signal. Ramirez, FBI teams are in place, disguised as fishing crews. We've got the harbor covered. Evelyn's phone lit up with a message from Diane, the local diner owner. Major meeting happening now. Harbor King's leadership all present. They're planning some kind of demonstration tomorrow. Something about making an example. Martha's voice came through the command channel. Just like they did in Port Haven, they always start with a show of force. Evelyn watched through her scope as more vehicles arrived at the main warehouse. The Harbor Kings were gathering their full strength, preparing to demonstrate their power to the town, just like Volkov had tried, just like the Night Raiders had attempted in Cedar Grove. All units, execute Phase 1, Evelyn ordered. Across Millbrook Harbor, carefully orchestrated chaos erupted. The Iron Wolves launched diversionary attacks from multiple directions. Sanchez's deputies, disguised as local traffic, created strategic blockades. Ghost Team operators triggered the harbor's emergency systems, causing confusion among the enemy forces. They're splitting their response. Ghost Lead reported. Security teams breaking formation, exactly as predicted. Evelyn watched through her thermal scope as the enemy commanders tried to coordinate their forces. Their radio communications, intercepted by Mike's equipment, revealed growing panic. Multiple breaches reported. Unknown riders on the north side. Loss of communication with outer teams. They're losing control, Duke observed, just like the others. Evelyn keyed her radio. Execute Phase 2. Ghost Team, you have weapons free on designated targets. Duke, begin your assault. Sanchez, light them up. The real attack hit the Harbor Kings from every direction. Ghost Team operators eliminated key leaders with surgical precision. The Iron Wolves' feint turned into a devastating assault on their defensive positions. Sanchez's deputies emerged from cover, targeting specific enemies based on their intelligence. Diane reports their leadership is trying to flee. Martha relayed. They're heading for the emergency boats. Not happening, Evelyn responded. Ghost 3 and 4. Cut off their escape. Duke, block the marina. Ramirez, time to bring in your teams. The Harbor Kings leaders made it halfway to their escape boats before finding themselves surrounded by ghost operators. Their professional security teams, realizing they'd been outmaneuvered, tried to mount a defense, but found themselves caught between the Iron Wolves and FBI assault teams. Commander, Ghost Lead's voice was urgent. You need to see what's in the main warehouse. Evelyn moved quickly through the chaos of battle, entering the warehouse through a side entrance. Inside, she found what the Harbor Kings had been preparing, enough weapons and ammunition to arm a small army, along with detailed plans for taking over other coastal towns. Just as we thought, she muttered. They were planning to expand. Evelyn, Sanchez called urgently. We've got movement at the town hall. Looks like some officials trying to quietly disappear. Ghost 5 and 6. Intercept. No one leaves town until we've confirmed their involvement. The battle for Millbrook Harbor lasted less than an hour, but its impact would be felt for years. The Harbor Kings, their leadership captured and their operations exposed, collapsed completely. Their professional security teams, finding themselves outmatched, surrendered to FBI forces. As dawn broke over the harbor, Evelyn watched as federal agents processed the scene. Local residents, who'd lived in fear for months, emerged to witness their town's liberation. Just like Port Haven, Carter observed, they never learn. They learn, Evelyn corrected. They just learn the wrong lessons. They see towns like this as weak, isolated, They never understand that small communities have their own strength. Her phone buzzed with a message from Mike. Similar operations identified in 2 more coastal towns. Ghost team ready for deployment. Looks like we're not done, Sanchez noted. Evelyn checked her weapon, already thinking about the next operation. We're never done. As long as there are people who think they can prey on small towns, we'll be here to prove them wrong. And remind them, Martha added through the radio, that sometimes the most dangerous person isn't the one with the biggest gang or the most guns. Sometimes, Evelyn agreed, watching the sun rise over Millbrook Harbor, it's the quiet ones, the ones who decide that enough is enough, the ones who stand up and fight back. Around her, the town was coming back to life. The harbor kings were gone. Their attempt to build a criminal empire shattered like those who tried before them. And somewhere out there, other towns were waiting, needing the same help. The same hope that Port Haven had found that morning when 2 bikers made the mistake of picking the wrong target. Ready to save another town? Sanchez asked, checking her gear. Evelyn smiled, thinking of that morning in Martha's diner that seemed so long ago. Always ready, because someone has to remind these bullies why they should be careful who they pick fights with. And why? Martha added, they should always think twice before causing trouble in a small town. 1 year after the confrontation that started it all in Martha's diner, Evelyn stood at her usual window booth, watching the morning fog roll in from the ocean. The town had changed in ways she never expected. Port Haven had become more than just a quiet coastal community. It had become a symbol of hope for small towns everywhere. Martha approached with fresh coffee, just like she had that fateful morning. Penny for your thoughts? Just thinking about how it all started, Evelyn replied. 2 bikers who thought they could intimidate a diner owner and found a Navy commander instead. Martha smiled, though I suspect they weren't the last ones to make that mistake. Evelyn's phone buzzed with a morning intelligence briefing from Mike. In the past year, their network had disrupted criminal operations in 12 coastal towns, dismantled 3 major trafficking rings, and exposed dozens of corrupt officials. The Ghost team had become legendary among criminal circles, an invisible force that struck without warning, protecting small communities from those who would prey on them. Got something interesting, Sanchez said, sliding into the booth. Now a seasoned sheriff, she'd helped train law enforcement in other towns, teaching them how to resist corruption and stand against intimidation. Remember those files we found in Millbrook Harbor? Finally finished decrypting them. What did you find? Names, dates, locations. Turns out Volkov wasn't just building a criminal empire. He was creating a template, a way for others to target and take over small towns systematically. Duke entered the diner, followed by Carter and Ramirez. The Iron Wolves leader looked serious. That explains what we're seeing up and down the coast. Different groups, same playbook. They're learning, Ramirez added, spreading surveillance photos across the table. After what happened here, in Cedar Grove and Millbrook Harbor, they're getting more careful, operating in smaller groups, staying mobile, but still targeting small towns, Carter observed, still thinking they can control communities through fear and corruption. Evelyn studied the photos. The patterns were clear, criminal organizations adapting their methods, but still underestimating the strength of small communities. Still making the same fundamental mistake that Volkov and the Steel Serpents had made. They're not the only ones who've learned. Evelyn said, every town we help becomes stronger. Every community that stands up becomes an example for others. Her phone lit up with multiple messages. Ghost lead. New activity detected in 3 coastal locations. Iron Wolf scout. Suspicious movement in harbor towns north of here. Mike. Satellite shows pattern matching Volkov's template. Martha refreshed their coffee cups. Looks like some people still need to learn the hard way. They never understand, Sanchez said. They see small towns as easy targets. They never expect to find people like us waiting for them. That's their biggest mistake, Evelyn replied. They think they can walk into any small town, throw their weight around, and take control. They never realize that these communities have their own strength, their own protectors. Ramirez checked her secure phone. FBI's been tracking increased criminal activity along the coast. They're getting organized, sharing resources. Good. Duke smiled. Makes them easier to find. Evelyn stood, moving to the window. Outside, Port Haven was alive with morning activity. Families walked without fear. Businesses thrived. And the community had grown stronger than ever. The steel serpents were gone. Their attempted takeover now, just a story told in Martha's notebook. You know what the real difference is? Evelyn asked. Between us and them? Besides the fact that we're the good guys? Sanchez quipped. They see small towns as targets. We see them as home. They think they can control communities through fear. We know that real strength comes from people standing together. Her phone buzzed again. Diane from Millbrook Harbor. Strange bikes in town. New gang trying to move in. Remember how you helped us? Never ends. Does it? Carter observed. It's not supposed to, Evelyn replied. As long as there are people who think they can prey on small towns. We'll be here to prove them wrong. Martha appeared with a fresh pot of coffee and her infamous apple pie. Well then, guess we better fuel up. Sounds like we've got more bullies to teach some manners to. You know what I've learned this past year? Evelyn said, looking at her team. That morning, when those bikers walked in, they thought they were just picking on a lone woman in a diner. They never realized they were starting something much bigger. A network, Sanchez added. A mission, Duke continued. A family, Martha finished. Evelyn's phone lit up with final confirmation from Ghost Lead. Teams in position at all 3 locations. Awaiting your command. She looked around at her unlikely family. The diner owner who'd started it all. The sheriff who'd found her courage. The Iron Wolves leader who'd become a trusted ally. The FBI agent who'd chosen to fight from the shadows. And all the others who joined their cause. Well then, Evelyn said, checking her weapon. Let's go remind some people why you should always be careful who you pick a fight with in small towns. And why? Martha added with a knowing smile. The quiet woman drinking coffee might just be the most dangerous person in the room. Outside, engines roared to life as the team prepared to move out. Somewhere along the coast. Other small towns were waiting for help. For hope. For someone to show them they weren't alone. And Evelyn's team would be there. Just as they had been since that morning when 2 bikers made the mistake that changed everything. The evening sun cast long shadows across Port Haven as Evelyn sat in her usual booth at Martha's Diner, finishing the day's reports. A year had passed since those first 2 bikers had walked in looking for trouble. Now, the diner basement command center coordinated operations protecting small towns up and down the coast. While Martha's coffee and pie fueled the planning of complex tactical missions. Message from Ghost Lead. Evelyn announced to her assembled team. Last night's operation in Harbor Bay was a complete success. Criminal network neutralized. Corrupt officials arrested. Community secured. That makes 15 towns liberated. Sanchez counted, marking the location on their tactical map. Not bad for a year's work. Started right here. Martha smiled, refilling coffee cups, with 2 bikers who picked the wrong target. Evelyn's phone buzzed with Mike's latest intelligence update. Criminal organizations are adapting. They're avoiding small coastal towns now, looking for easier targets inland. They're learning, Carter observed. They're running scared. Duke corrected. Word spreading in the underworld. Small towns aren't easy targets anymore. Not with the ghost team out there. Not with us watching. Ramirez entered the diner, carrying fresh intelligence files. We're seeing a significant decrease in organized criminal activity along the coast. They're calling it the small town effect. Criminal organizations warning each other to avoid communities like Port Haven. Because they never know, Sanchez grinned, when a quiet woman drinking coffee might be a Navy commander. Evelyn studied the latest reports. The changes were dramatic. Criminal networks that once saw small towns as easy prey now avoided them entirely. The template Volkov had created, the one that had inspired so many others, was now being used to teach criminals what locations to avoid. You know what the real victory is? Evelyn asked, looking around at her team. It's not just about the towns we've helped. It's about the ones we haven't had to help. The communities that never got targeted because the criminals were too afraid. Martha placed her worn notebook on the table. The one that had started it all. Got a call from a diner owner in Mountain View. Says some bikers were causing trouble, trying to pressure local businesses. But the strangest thing happened. What's that? Evelyn asked, though she already knew the answer. The bikers got a phone call. Next thing anyone knew, they were gone. Apparently, someone told them about what happened here, about what happens to people who pick fights in small towns these days. Duke laughed. Reputation's a powerful thing. Evelyn's phone lit up with a series of final messages. Ghost lead, all sectors clear. No hostile activity detected. Mike, satellite shows criminal operations moving away from coastal regions. Iron Wolf Scout, roads are quiet. They've learned to stay away. So, what now? Sanchez asked. With the coast secure, do we stand down? Evelyn stood, moving to the window where she'd sat that fateful morning. Outside, Port Haven was peaceful, but somewhere, other communities might need their help, need to learn the lessons that had started here. We adapt, she said finally. Just like they have, we stay ready, stay vigilant, because somewhere, someone will eventually forget the lessons we taught here. They'll think they found an easy target, a quiet town they can control through fear and intimidation. And when they do, Carter asked, they'll learn the same lesson the steel serpents learned. The same lesson we've taught every criminal organization that's tried to prey on small towns. That sometimes the most dangerous person isn't the one with the biggest gang or the most guns. Sometimes, Martha added, serving a final round of coffee, it's the quiet ones. The ones who decide that enough is enough. The ones who stand up and show others how to fight back. Evelyn looked at her unlikely family, the diner owner who'd become their heart, the sheriff who'd found her courage, the Iron Wolves who'd become protectors, the ghost team that struck from shadows, and all the others who joined their cause. You know what those first two bikers really did? She asked, when they walked in here thinking they could intimidate a small town. What's that? Sanchez asked. They didn't just pick a fight with the wrong person. They helped create something they never expected, a network of people dedicated to protecting small towns, to standing up against bullies and criminals who think they can prey on quiet communities. Her phone buzzed one final time. A message from Diane in Millbrook Harbor. Thank you. Our town is strong now. We help protect others, just like you protected us. Outside, the sun set over Port Haven, casting golden light across the peaceful streets. In diners and small towns up and down the coast, people went about their lives without fear, knowing they weren't alone anymore, knowing that somewhere, a quiet woman drinking coffee was watching, ready to remind anyone who forgot why you should always be careful who you pick a fight with in small towns. Because sometimes, Evelyn thought, watching the last rays of sunlight fade, the biggest mistakes lead to the most important changes. And sometimes, the worst decision a bully can make is walking into a small-town diner, thinking they found an easy target. After all, you never know who might be sitting there, quietly drinking their coffee, just waiting for someone to make that mistake. If you enjoyed Commander Hayes' takedown of the criminal underworld and want to see more stories of justice served, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Hit that notification bell too, because we've got incredible episodes coming up that you won't want to miss. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from and what you thought of this story.